this is slightly related, I guess, in a sense, to what we've been talking about. I'm just thinking about the happy ends.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's if you have been exposing children to a performance that does bring them into a potentially more dangerous world because they have to interact, and to a story that comes very close because they're in the middle of it. Do you have a greater responsibility to resolve that in a positive way at the end?
Well, that's a big question, and I would say that the responsibility isn't necessarily to resolve it, but to know what you're doing at the time. So if you really want to end with a feeling of like there is no solution, we are not friends anymore, it's sad, then you have to know that this happens, and perhaps you should prepare the teacher if it's in school, or you should make time afterwards in the performance so that children can remain with you. You can talk, not necessarily as a pedagogical talk, what did you think about that, but being in the room together, looking out for how did the group respond. There's a Swedish professor called Karin Helander, and she's done research on how children experience sad endings. And to a certain age, if I remember correctly, or I remember some of it, she says that children they actually make their own happy endings. So if the play ends sadly, the grandpa, I think there was a play where the grandfather died, a child would say, but they met later on in heaven. So you make your own happy endings, but of course, I don't know. I think there's a difference between telling a child that everything's going to be okay, and telling them that now this is a problem. I hope you can see that, but I have hope that it will be okay. But this is a large discussion within the field of children's literature, for instance, where my colleague, she's writing about a PhD about ambiguity in children's literature and evil. So how do you actually tell children stories about fathers hitting? She's investigating a book called Boy about a father who is obviously a picture book for children, about a father who is called Angry Man. So it's a story of child abuse at home, and it's beautifully done. But do you do that? How do you, and also Holocaust, of course, is a theme she's investigating. How do you explain, or should you explain, Holocaust to children? So it's a big question. It's a complicated one, but I think we see a movement, and that's her thesis, that we see a movement from children's literature, and also I think including in that is performance, theatre and films, being protective towards a trend where we are exposing children. Because now we have, in Norway at least, we have a newspaper for children, and the TV station, the NRK, the national broadcast company, is broadcasting news for children, and it's right on. It's not, they tell it as it is. A woman, the female TV host of the science show Newton for children, from I think 10 years old or 8 years old, she gave birth on TV. And she has shown her whole body, not her body, she's shown sexuality and puberty on TV. So there's an ambiguity present, and one tendency or trend is show it all. Children should know about everything, and that's, I think, a Scandinavian way of thinking about children. In Denmark now, they dissected a lion in the zoo and invited children to come in. We want children to learn and see everything, but at the same time there's also the innocence of children. We want to keep them safe. We send them to kindergarten. They wear helmets when they go bicycling. They don't go around by themselves anymore. We drive them everywhere. I read somewhere it's called the backseat generation, because they're always in the backseat and the mothers and the fathers are driving them around. And that's quite the opposite. So there's protection and innocence, and there's the competent child is the term, I think, exposing children to everything. And those are two different discourses, so to speak.
Mm.